Welcome to the LSAT Reading Comprehension Lesson number 6. And today we will analyze and make out a main idea question, then an inference question, and then an information retrieval question. So let's get started, guys, with the reading, the passage. The long dominant school of new classical economics, with its focus on supply and demand curves and the efficient allocation of resources, has come under fire by economists, scholars, and policymakers, arguing for a new approach with better predictive models. Recent failings in predicting economic downturns have only heightened the intensity of their voices. These critics say that the neoclassical model is untenable, considering the current strain on raw materials and energy sources. One particular approach that has emerged from an unusual assembly of ecologists, evolutionary biologists, and ecological economists is the oddly termed biophysical economics. Their model is not too dissimilar from established ecological economics, except that it ventures beyond traditional economics to incorporate the laws of physics, more specifically the law of thermodynamics, into the analysis of the economic process. Ever since the environmental movement of the 1970s, there has been a growing interest in economics that incorporates environmental factors into its models. Even though biophysical economics is a departure even from traditional environmental economics, which is simply an application of neoclassical economics to environmental problems. Based on a steady state model, biophysical economics, like ecological economics, challenges the neoclassical notion of constant growth. While ecological economics orients around natural resources and how it fuels or limits the economic system to a steady state, the focus of biophysical economics centers on one particular measure that is both an input and output energy. The central equation for this nascent field of economics is a physics concept called the energy return on investment, or abbreviation EROI, which is the ratio of the energy delivered by a process to the energy used directly and indirectly in that process. Biophysical economics states that an economic system requires a positive EROI in order to survive. Unlike neoclassical economics, the use of EROI enables biophysical economists to take into account technological change affecting production and factors out the changes in consumer preferences and market forms that mask the underlying physical realities of the economy. In line with its focus on only the physical realities of an economy, biophysical economists believe the production of certain natural resources, such as oil and coal, will eventually reach their maximum. Even before that happens, the EROI for that resource will already have begun its slide as it becomes increasingly more expensive to derive that resource. As EROI diminishes, energy from these resources will become increasingly unsustainable. Biophysical economists argue that the EROI for oil has already begun its descent, starting its slide at the beginning of the new century. Of course, this new field is subject to the same internal conflicts that have plagued economists since the beginners of their field of study. Not all proponents focused so entirely on energy, particularly the ecologists. Also, attributing numbers to energy used to derive has proven difficult in some cases. Lastly, the school has already split into factions. One arguing that serious collapse of the world economy is imminent, and the other that there is time to correct the ship's trajectory and avoid a dismal end. Here is some questions belong to this passage. First question. Actually, this is the continuation of our previous lesson number 5. So please follow these lessons correctly and in order. So you will not mix it up. Which one of the following best states the main idea of the passage? A option. Biophysical economics has shown that it is prone to the same flaws as neoclassical economics, so it should be discarded for not contributing any worthwhile economic ideas. B option. Its focus on energy proves that biophysical economics is a limited and somewhat immature economic field of study with dubious influence on predictive models. C option. The failure of predictive models based on the prevailing economic ideas has allowed a new and innovative economic theory to come forward from unlikely sources, including non-economists. The option biophysical economics has supplanted neoclassical economics as the dominant field of study because it uses some of the same concepts as traditional economics to create its new predictive models. And the last option is E. Biophysical economics is an intriguing subset of environmental economics, worth studying mainly for its suggestion to use the laws of thermodynamics in economic analysis. Here is the correct answer is C. The failure of predictive models based on the prevailing economic ideas has allowed a new and innovative economic theory to come forward from unlikely sources, including non-economists. This is a main idea question. The question asks that you need to identify the main idea of the passage from among the possible answers. You need to refer to your passage summary. Let's talk details regarding the rest options. Let's talk about A option, which takes the last paragraph. Here it is, and exaggerates the importance of its observation that biophysical economics is subject to the same flaws as other schools of economics. This answer also goes further than the passage in saying that biophysical economics should be discarded because of those flaws, a recommendation that the passage definitely doesn't make. Let's go to B option. And here it is. The passage does say that there is some difficulty applying the EROI to certain aspects of the economy, but it doesn't make such a harsh assessment of the energy focus, nor does the passage say that its influence on predictive models is dubious, since the passage also discusses some predictive models based on the EROI. Let's talk about C option. Answer C seems to fit the passage perfectly, guys. The passage indicates that the failure of predictive models based on classical economics has opened the way for new economic schools of thought, and that economists, along with non-economists, have formulated biophysical economics. This would seem to be your answer, and that is your correct choice. But you should review the remaining options as well, as I told you previously. Let's talk about answer D. Is wrong in many ways. First and foremost, the passage makes no claim that biophysical economics has replaced new classical economics, only that it has come about because of certain failures by the older school of thought. And the second, guys, the passage makes so transparent that biophysical economics doesn't use the same concepts as traditional economics and in fact has developed its own concepts based on energy. And lastly, answer E cannot be your answer because the passage states that biophysical economics is a break from even environmental economics. So even though it is somewhat related by its concern for natural resources, it's not a subset for environmental economics. Therefore, the correct choice is answer C. Once again. Question 9. It can be inferred that which one of the following is true of the theories put forward by the biophysics economists. A option, an economy can sustain positive growth as long as it has a stable or increasing EROI. B option, an economy can sustain positive growth as long as it has the supply of natural resources to support its energy needs. C option. An economy can grow despite any technological advances or physical changes when there are market forces that overcome such deficiencies. D option. Biophysical economists and ecological economists agree about the physical limitations to the world economy but disagree about the solutions. And E option. Of the proponents of biophysical economics, the ecologists are the majority of those who believe that the collapse of the world economy is imminent. So let's analyze and make out the 9 questions. I would like to tell you that your correct answer is A option. An economy can sustain positive growth as long as it has a stable or increasing EROI. This is an inference question because the question asks you that you need to determine which of the possible answers can be inferred from the theories put forward by a physical economist. You need to refer to the passage, surely. Actually, answer A, our correct answer, mentions that economy can survive as long as it has a stable or increasing EROI. This is exactly how the passage describes the function of the EROI. It says that an economic system requires a positive EROI in order to survive. This is probably your answer, but you must review the remaining options to be certain till you will find your correct option. Answer B tries to trick you by linking natural resources to energy, but the focus of this statement is still natural resources, which is the central focus of ecological economics, not biophysical economics. Answer C is an argument that would be made by neoclassical economics, which believes that market forces can solve most major economic problems. Let's talk about answer D, which seems viable as a choice. But the passage really doesn't indicate what solutions these two groups offer for solving the world's economic problems. So you don't know whether they agree or not about solutions. You know only that these two groups have different ways of approaching and defining the problems. Answer E cannot be concluded from the information you have. You know only that the ecologists tend to focus less on energy than other proponents of biophysical economics. Thus, the correct choice is answer A, as I said previously. Let's go forward to the following question. According to the passage, which of the following, if true, would most directly affect the biophysical economic models? A option. Consumers switch their preference from gasoline-powered to electric-powered automobiles. B option. The government increases taxes on gasoline, coal, and natural gas. C option. In order to maintain current supply levels, the largest mining companies must use a more costly and dangerous method to source coal. D option. In order to maintain current supply levels, oil companies must take on more debt to explore new areas and drill new wells. And E option. An energy company derives a new technology for drilling a new deep sea oil well that avoids an increase in cost the company had expected. So here it is, our correct answer is C. In order to maintain current supply levels, the largest mining companies must use a more costly and dangerous method to source coal. This is an information retrieval question. The question asks that you need to choose which event among these possible answers would most directly affect a biophysical economic analysis. Since their approach is based on the EROI, you are looking for an event that directly affects the energy delivered by a process or used in that process. Actually, we need to go back to our options for analyzing them. Answer A seems like a good potential answer. A consumer switch from gasoline-powered to electric-powered automobiles may indirectly affect energy consumption, but this is still a consumer preference and a market-based influence, and it could be masking an underlying process that is using more energy, like the production of electric cars and so on. Let's talk about answer B. Involves government intervention in the economy, and taxes will only affect consumer behavior and not the underlying energy delivery or consumption. Answer C definitely affects the EROI economic model. If the cost to maintain current energy supply levels goes up significantly, it could affect the long-term viability of that energy source and thus the survival of the economic system. This is most likely your answer, and that is. But still, you must review the remaining options. Answer D involves debt in the equation, and debt may or may not be related to increased costs. It could also be due to poor management because you don't know the reason for taking on more debt. You cannot know whether or not this affects the biophysical economic model. And answer A says that the new technology helps the company avoid an increase, which means the cost remains the same and thus has no impact on the economic model at all. So the correct choice is answer C. Let's go forward to the 11th question. According to the passage, which one of the following best describes the biophysical economist's view of oil supplies for energy. A option, scarce supply and expensive to source. B option, stable or slightly decreasing supply, yet increasingly cheaper to source. C option, unknown supply, yet increasingly cheaper to source. D option, decreasing supply, yet inexpensive to source. And the last option E, abundant or stable supply, yet increasingly expensive to source. Actually, here it is. The obvious correct option is E, abundant or stable supply, yet increasingly expensive to source. This is an information retrieval question, guys. The questions ask you to identify among the possible answers the view that the biophysical economist has of oil supplies for energy. You need to look back at paragraph 3 and read the last sentence. Here it is, paragraph 3 and the last sentence. Actually, here, the last sentence states that biophysical economists believe the EROI for oil has already begun its descent, which means that the cost of producing of oil is becoming increasingly expensive while supplies have not risen equally. Let's analyze answer A. Answer A says oil is scarce and expensive. But the passage implies that oil has not reached its peak in supply. So the first part is wrong, even if the second part is right. Expensive to source. Answer B mentions that oil is stable or slightly decreasing and cheaper to source. The first part might be right. Till yet. But the second part is incorrect. The passage makes it so transparent that oil is becoming more expensive to source. Answer S, C. Says the supply is unknown and it's cheaper to source. Again, here the second part cannot be right according to the passage. Now, let's move forward to answer D, which is completely wrong. Oil is not decreasing in supply and it's not inexpensive to source according to the passage. Answer E is your last available option and this is the correct choice. And it is right on your target. The economists view oil as abundant or stable in supply and it's increasingly expensive to source, which is why the EROI has already begun its descent. So the correct option is E, abundant or stable supply, yet increasingly expensive to source. Let's forward to the question 12. Which one of the following best describes the function of the final paragraph? A option gives supporting facts for why biophysical economics has better predictive models than neoclassical economics. B option shows that while biophysical economics may offer stronger theories, certain practicalities will hinder its progress in overturning the dominance of classical economics. C option exhibits the conflict between biophysical economists and ecological economists. D option explains that while biophysical economists is new, it's not immune to the problems that have led to the distrust of neoclassical economists. And E option demonstrates how a disagreement between the factions within the biophysical economics community will only serve to make their arguments against neoclassical economists stronger. And here it is. Let's analyze. This is a main idea question. The question asks that you need to identify the answer that best describes the function of the final paragraph within the passage. Actually, the final paragraph is essentially saying that biophysical economics is not immune to the problems. Here it is. That other economic schools experience. So the paragraph is attempting to equalize things a bit between the new type of economics and the old. Let's analyze options. Let's get started with answer A. Answer A is in many ways the antithesis of what the final paragraph is saying, establishing the superiority of biophysical economics over neoclassical. This doesn't match what you know and cannot be your answer. Answer B says that certain practicalities will hinder the ability of biophysical economics to surpass classical economics. But the last paragraph says only that biophysical economics experiences the same problems as classical economics. Not that it will not overcome those problems and even surpass the other schools of thought. Answer C fits of the second sentence, which indicates a small dissonance between the ecologists and the rest of biophysical economic supporters. But to say that the entire paragraph functions to show the conflict between them is extreme and inaccurate. Answer D matches your understanding of how the last paragraph functions. The last paragraph does indeed explain that the new economics is not immune to the problems that have plagued classical economics and made it problematic for non-economists. This is probably your answer. But you must review your last option as well. And actually, this is your answer. Explains that while biophysical economics is new, is not immune to the problems that have led to the distrust of neoclassical economics. And last option is E. Answer E says the last paragraph makes the disagreement within the biophysical economics community into an advantage over classical economics, but you know that the paragraph implies that the flow makes the new economics more similar to classical economics, at least as an economic discipline, if not in substance. So the correct choice is answer D. Let's go forward. The last question belongs to this passage. So tense. The author's primary purpose in the passage is to A option. Outline the ideas and pitfalls of a new economic theory intended to solve the failings of an older prevailing economic theory. B option. Debunk an alternative economic model to the classically accepted economic model. C option. Explain how a current economic crisis has resulted in some unlikely theories on the economy. D option. Prove that economists supporting new economic theories are prone to the same pitfalls as economists supporting older, more well-established theories. E option. Describe an economic conflict between two rival theories as to why an economic crisis occurred. So here it is. The correct answer is A. Outline the ideas and pitfalls of a new economic theory intended to solve the failings of an older prevailing economic theory. But still, we need to know that this is a variation of a main idea question. The primary purpose question. You need to refer to your passage summary. Answer A is pretty much on target, and that is the passage does explore the substance and the problems surrounding a new economic theory, and that is supposed to supplant an earlier, more dominant economic theory. This option may vary very well and be your answer, and that is, but still we must explore the remaining options as well. Let's analyze answer B. This cannot be correct because the passage doesn't favor the new classical economic model over the biophysical economic model. If anything, the passage gives the new model equal standing to the classical model. Answer C makes the economic crisis responsible for the development of the biophysical economic theories, but the passage says the crisis resulted in disenchantment with the old model. It doesn't make a causal connection between the crisis and the development of new models. Actually, the passage seems to make more of a connection between environmental concerns and the new models. This answer also seems too limited to the first paragraph, while the remaining sections of the passage do much more than what is described in answer C. Answer D focuses on the last paragraph and ignores all that came before. This is too limited a statement to be your primary purpose. Answer E cannot be your answer because the passage doesn't really give the theories of biophysical economics or neoclassical economics regarding the economic crisis. Therefore, the correct choice is answer A, as I said previously, and this is the end of our lesson number 6.